The crayon moved across the paper in careful strokes, purple and black and yellow filling the white space with a 7-year-old's vision of tomorrow. Lily Steele's tongue poked from the corner of her mouth as she worked, the kind of concentration that made adults stop and remember what it felt like to believe drawing could change the world. Rosa Martinez stood behind her at the small kitchen table, hands resting on the back of the chair, watching the picture take shape. A black car, a tall figure behind the wheel, an empty back seat, a bright sun ahead on a road that stretched toward the edge of the paper. "Your daddy's going to do great today, mija." Lily didn't look up from her work. "I know. That's why I'm drawing good luck." At the bottom of the page, she printed the words in careful letters, tongue still visible. "Daddy's new job. Everything will be okay now." Rosa felt something tighten in her chest. She'd seen Marcus leave 2 hours ago in the one good suit he owned. Shoulders squared like a man walking into battle instead of a job interview. She'd watched him kiss his daughter's forehead and promised to be back before bedtime. She'd heard the tremor in his voice when Lily asked if the new job would mean they could keep their apartment. The drawing was finished now. Lily held it up to the light streaming through the window, inspecting her work with the seriousness of a master craftsman. "Perfect," she declared, setting it carefully on the table to dry. "When Daddy comes home, everything's going to be different." If only belief could make it so. The Mercedes S-Class handled like a dream, smooth and responsive in ways Marcus Steele had forgotten vehicles could be. 6 hours into his first day as a driver, his hands had finally stopped shaking on the wheel. The leather was soft under his palms. The dashboard glowed with understated luxury. Everything about the car whispered money in a language he'd almost forgotten how to speak. Behind him, Elena Hartwell sat in perfect silence, eyes fixed on her tablet, fingers moving across the screen with the precision of a surgeon. She hadn't spoken to him since they'd left the office that morning except to give directions. He'd begun to think maybe the job wouldn't be so bad. Keep your head down, drive the car, cash the checks. Simple. Then the traffic report came through his earpiece, and he made a decision. Rain started to fall as he turned left instead of right, taking Riverside Boulevard instead of the bridge she'd specified. The route he'd studied last night, the one that would save 11 minutes according to every traffic app he'd consulted. Basic logistics, the kind of analysis that used to be second nature back when he had a career instead of just survival. Her voice cut through the car like a blade. "This isn't the route I gave you." Marcus kept his eyes on the road, hands steady at 10 and 2. "No, ma'am, traffic's backed up on the bridge. This way gets us there 11 minutes faster." "I didn't ask for your assessment of traffic patterns. I gave you specific instructions." "With respect, ma'am, you told me the meeting starts at 10. It's 9:43. This route gets you there at 9:56. The bridge route would have us sitting in gridlock until 10:15 at minimum." The silence that followed felt like pressure building before an explosion. "Pull over." Marcus's hands tightened on the wheel. "Ma'am, if we pull over now—" "Get out of my car, now!" The words weren't loud. They didn't need to be. They carried the weight of absolute authority, the kind of voice that had probably never been questioned, never been denied. Marcus pulled to the curb. Rain drummed against the roof, fat droplets that would soak through his suit jacket in seconds. Behind him, the door opened. Elena stepped out into the downpour, her $1,000 haircut already beginning to collapse, mascara starting to run. She walked around to his window, knocked on the glass. He lowered it. Rain immediately began to soak his shoulder. "Get out. We're going to have this conversation face to face like adults." 6 months ago, Marcus would have obeyed without question. 6 months ago, he'd had $17,000 in savings and a career trajectory that pointed upward. 6 months ago, he'd been a man who swallowed his pride because that's what professionals did. But 6 months ago, he hadn't received an eviction notice, hadn't watched his daughter pretend she wasn't hungry so he could eat the last of the food. hadn't spent 3 hours on the phone with his dead wife's mother, explaining why Lily couldn't come visit this summer because he couldn't afford the bus ticket to Cleveland. He stepped out of the car. They faced each other on the sidewalk, rain plastering his shirt to his skin, her white blouse going transparent in ways that probably violated several HR policies. Neither of them moved to shield themselves from the weather. "Do you know why you're the 43rd applicant for this position?" Marcus had wondered about that number when he'd seen it in the file. "Because you fired 42 people." Wrong. Because 42 people quit. They couldn't handle being told what to do by a woman half their age. They couldn't handle criticism. They couldn't handle the fact that I expect excellence, not excuses. "I'm not making excuses, ma'am. I'm explaining my decision." "I didn't ask for an explanation. I asked for obedience." Something shifted inside Marcus's chest, something that had been compressed and crushed for 6 months of unemployment. 6 months of watching his savings evaporate. 6 months of lying to his daughter about why they couldn't afford things anymore. The thing that had made him report the CFO at Morrison and Associates even when everyone told him to let it go. The thing that had cost him everything and might cost him everything again. "Then maybe you hired the wrong person." Elena's eyes widened slightly, ice blue and sharp in the rain. "What did you just say?" "I said maybe you hired the wrong person. If you want someone who will nod and follow orders without thinking, there are plenty of people who'll do that, but you didn't hire them. You hired me. A man with 12 years of accounting experience, a man who knows how to analyze situations and make smart decisions. If you don't want that, fire me now and save us both the trouble." The rain kept falling. A car passed, spraying water onto the curb. Elena stared at him like he'd grown a second head, her expression caught between fury and something else he couldn't quite identify. "You're serious?" "I don't have time to be anything else, ma'am. I have a 7-year-old daughter at home who's counting on me to keep this job. I have rent that's 3 weeks overdue. I have $17 in my bank account. So yes, I'm serious, dead serious. I need this job. But I won't be treated like I'm stupid. I'm not stupid. I'm desperate. There's a difference." For a long moment, Elena said nothing. Rain dripped down her face, ruining what was probably a $1,000 makeup application. She didn't seem to notice, then she did something Marcus never expected. She laughed. It wasn't a cruel laugh. It was surprised, genuine, almost impressed. The sound of someone encountering something so unexpected they couldn't help but react. "Get back in the car, Mr. Steele." Marcus hesitated. "Am I fired?" "Get in the car." They drove the rest of the way to her meeting in silence. She was inside for 37 minutes. Marcus sat in the parking garage with the engine off, replaying the confrontation in his head. He should have kept his mouth shut, should have apologized, should have done whatever she wanted and saved his pride for a day when his daughter wasn't depending on him. But he hadn't. And somehow, incredibly, he still had a job. His phone buzzed. Rose's name on the screen. "Lily fell asleep waiting for you. She made you a picture at school today. It's a drawing of you in a fancy car. She's so proud of her daddy." Marcus closed his eyes and pressed the phone against his forehead. The image of Lily's face filled his mind. Brown eyes warm like her mother's had been. That gap-toothed smile that could break his heart and put it back together in the same moment. He thought about the eviction notice still taped to his door, the empty refrigerator, the stack of unpaid bills on the kitchen counter, each one a small monument to his failure to hold their life together after Sarah died. His phone buzzed again. Different number this time. "Mr. Steele, my office 7 a.m. tomorrow. Don't be late." E.H. Tomorrow would be day 2, his second chance to prove himself or his second chance to get fired. He started the car and drove home through streets slick with rain. The eviction notice was exactly where he'd left it, bright orange against the white door like a brand. Marcus pulled it down, folded it carefully, and put it in his jacket pocket. He'd deal with it later. Right now, he needed to see his daughter. Rosa met him at her apartment door with Lily asleep in her arms, the little girl's face peaceful in a way that made Marcus's chest ache. She wouldn't go to bed until she finished the picture. Said she had to make it perfect because her daddy has the most important job in the whole world now. Marcus took his daughter carefully, feeling her small weight settle against his shoulder. "Thank you, Rosa, for everything. You're a good father, Marcus. Your Sarah would be proud." He carried Lily to their apartment, past the empty refrigerator he'd have to figure out how to fill, past the stack of bills that seemed to grow every day, past all the evidence of how badly he'd failed to protect her from the reality of their situation. In her room, he laid her gently in the bed they'd bought together when she was 2, tucking her favorite stuffed rabbit under her arm. The rabbit was missing one ear now, loved nearly to pieces. "Daddy?" He froze halfway to standing. "I thought you were asleep, sweetheart." "I was pretending." Her eyes opened, those eyes that were all Sarah looking at him with 7-year-old wisdom. "Did you have a good first day?" Marcus sat on the edge of the bed. "It was interesting." "Is your boss nice?" He thought about Elena Hartwell standing in the rain, staring at him like he was the first person who'd ever talked back to her. "I don't know yet. She's very complicated." Lily's mouth curved into a sleepy smile. "Mommy was complicated sometimes, but she was still nice inside. Maybe your boss is like that." The words hit Marcus like a fist to the sternum. Sarah had been complicated, brilliant and difficult and warm and occasionally impossible, the kind of woman who could argue philosophy at breakfast and cry at dog food commercials, the kind of woman who'd made him better just by existing in the same space. "Maybe, sweetheart. Get some sleep." "Daddy?" "Yes?" "I made you a picture. It's in my backpack." Lily pointed to the corner where her purple backpack sat slumped against the wall. Marcus retrieved it, unzipping the main compartment to find the drawing carefully protected in a plastic folder. It was exactly as Rosa had described, a black car with 2 figures inside, a tall man behind the wheel, a small girl in the back seat, and ahead of them, a road leading toward a bright yellow sun. Flowers lined the roadside, rendered in enthusiastic scribbles of color. At the bottom, in Lily's careful printing, "Daddy's new job. Everything will be okay now." Marcus pressed the picture to his chest and felt something break inside him, something that had been held together by force of will and desperation for too long. He cried for the first time in months, silent tears that ran down his face while his daughter slept, believing in a future he wasn't sure he could deliver. He couldn't fail. He wouldn't fail, no matter what Elena Hartwell threw at him, no matter how cruel she was, no matter how impossible the job became. He would not fail his daughter. He looked at his phone. The text from Elena glowed in the darkness. 7 a.m. tomorrow. Don't be late. He wouldn't be late. 6:47 in the morning. Marcus stood outside Elena Hartwell's office 13 minutes early, wearing the same suit he'd pressed 3 times the night before. He'd polished his shoes until he could see his reflection, rehearsed what he would say if she tried to fire him, and arrived with enough time to compose himself. The door was already open. He knocked anyway. "Come in." Elena sat behind her desk, eyes fixed on a tablet, not looking up. The office was all glass and steel, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, furniture that probably cost more than Marcus's car. On the wall behind her hung a photograph of an older man with kind eyes and Elena's sharp features, his arm around her shoulders in what looked like her college graduation. "Close the door." He closed it. "Sit." He sat. For 3 full minutes she continued reading, her face completely unreadable. Marcus sat in silence, refusing to fidget, refusing to show nervousness. The chair was leather, expensive, designed to make visitors feel simultaneously comfortable and inferior. Finally, she set the tablet down and looked at him, I did some research on you last night, Mr. Steele. Marcus's stomach tightened. Research? Morrison and Associates. You weren't just a senior accountant there. You were their best forensic analyst. You uncovered a $2.3 million embezzlement scheme in your 3rd year. You saved the company from a federal investigation in your 7th year. You trained 4 other accountants who all went on to become department heads. She leaned forward, fingers steepled on the desk. So why did they really fire you? Marcus hesitated. The official story was easy, rehearsed, restructuring, budget cuts, last hired, first fired, even though that wasn't true. The unofficial story was different, darker, the kind that could follow a man forever if he let it. They said it was restructuring. I know what they said. I'm asking what actually happened. The silence stretched between them like a wire about to snap. Through the window behind Elena, Marcus could see the city waking up, cars beginning to fill the streets, lights coming on in distant buildings. Ordinary people heading to ordinary jobs, not sitting in a billionaire's office explaining why they'd thrown away their career. I reported the CFO for expense fraud. He was skimming from the employee pension fund, small amounts but consistent. Over 8 years, it added up to almost $1 million. Elena's expression didn't change. And the CEO was his brother-in-law. They buried my report. 3 months later, I was restructured out of the company. Elena nodded slowly, something shifting in her ice-blue eyes. I thought it was something like that. The way you stood up to me yesterday, that wasn't the behavior of a desperate man who'd do anything to keep his job. That was the behavior of someone with principles, someone who'd rather lose everything than compromise on what's right. She stood and walked to the window, her back to him now, silhouette sharp against the morning light. Do you know why I'm so hard on my employees, Mr. Steele? No, ma'am. Because my father built this company by being soft. He trusted the wrong people. He gave second chances to employees who didn't deserve them. He believed that if he was kind enough, loyal enough, everyone would be kind and loyal in return. She turned to face him, and for the first time, Marcus saw something other than cold control in her expression. He was wrong. When he died 3 years ago, I discovered that half his senior executives had been stealing from him for years. The company was 6 months away from bankruptcy. I was 26 years old, fresh out of business school, and I had to fire people who'd been with my father for decades. I had to rebuild everything from nothing. I'm sorry, that must have been incredibly difficult. Don't be sorry, be excellent. Elena walked back to her desk. I'm hard on people because that's the only way I know to protect what I've built. Softness nearly destroyed this company once. I won't let it happen again. Marcus felt the words forming before he could stop them. The same stubborn principle that had cost him Morrison and Associates now pushing him toward the edge again. With respect, ma'am, there's a difference between softness and basic human decency. You can have high standards without treating people like they're worthless. You can demand excellence without crushing someone's dignity in the process. Elena's eyes sharpened, focus narrowing to a point. And you think I crossed that line? I think you crossed it yesterday when you told me to get out of the car because I used my judgment instead of blindly following orders. I think you crossed it when you said people like me, like it was nothing. The temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. Elena sat down heavily, and for the first time, Marcus saw something other than ice in her eyes. Something that almost looked like shame. You noticed that? I've noticed things like that my whole life, ma'am. She was silent for a long moment, fingers tracing the edge of her tablet without looking at it. My father's best friend was a black man named Harold Washington. He was the chief operations officer when I took over. He'd been with the company for 25 years. He was the only executive who wasn't stealing from us. What happened to him? He resigned 6 months after I became CEO. He said he couldn't work for someone who treated people the way I treated them. He said I'd become everything my father hated. Elena looked at Marcus directly, no ice now, just raw honesty. He was right. Marcus didn't know what to say. The woman sitting across from him wasn't the ice queen who'd ordered him out of the car yesterday. She was someone younger, more vulnerable, carrying weight that had bent her into shapes she never intended. I'm not telling you this to excuse my behavior. I'm telling you because you deserve to understand what you're working with. I am difficult. I am demanding, and yes, sometimes I say things that I shouldn't say, things that reveal prejudices I thought I'd outgrown. She picked up a folder from her desk and handed it to him. This is your new employment contract. I've modified the terms. Marcus opened it, scanning the first page. The words seemed to swim in front of his eyes. You're no longer just my driver. You're my personal assistant and operations consultant. The salary is $95,000 annually, plus full benefits and a signing bonus of $10,000 to cover your current debts. The folder nearly slipped from Marcus's hands. He read the numbers again, certain he'd misunderstood. 95,000, 10,000 signing bonus, full benefits, which meant health insurance for Lily, dental, vision, things they hadn't had in 6 months. Ma'am, I don't understand. You stood up to me, Mr. Steele. No one does that. Everyone either cowers or quits, but you stood in the rain and told me I was wrong. Do you know how refreshing that is? Do you know how long it's been since anyone treated me like a human being instead of a paycheck or a monster? I wasn't trying to... I know. That's what makes it real. Elena folded her hands on her desk, posture perfect, control reasserted. I'm not going to pretend I've suddenly become a different person. I'm still going to be demanding. I'm still going to expect excellence. And I'm probably still going to say things that make you want to throw coffee in my face. Coffee? Figure of speech. A ghost of a smile crossed her lips. But I'm going to try to be better, and I want you to hold me accountable when I'm not. Can you do that? Marcus looked at the contract in his hands. The numbers that meant Lily could keep her school, her friends, her home. The signature line at the bottom, waiting for his pen. He thought about his daughter's drawing, the fancy car, the road leading towards sunshine and flowers. Yes, ma'am, I can do that. Good. Elena stood, signaling the meeting was over. We have a full day ahead. Board meeting at 9, lunch with the Chang delegation at noon, site visit at 3. Your first job as my new assistant is to make sure everything runs smoothly. Yes, ma'am. And Mr. Steele? He paused at the door, contract clutched in his hands. Don't call me ma'am, it makes me feel like my mother. For the first time, her smile seemed almost genuine. My name is Elena. Yes, Elena. Marcus walked out of the office with a contract that would change his life, his heart pounding in his chest. He didn't know it yet, but the woman he thought was his enemy was about to become something else entirely. And the walls they'd both built, walls of distrust and fear and past hurt, were about to start crumbling. One conversation at a time. The boardroom was packed, 12 executives seated around a table that could have doubled as a landing strip. Marcus stood against the wall, learning his new role by watching, taking mental notes on power dynamics and subtle hierarchies. Elena sat at the head of the table, perfect posture, ice blue eyes scanning the room like a general surveying a battlefield. The numbers don't lie, Ms. Hartwell. The speaker was a silver-haired man in a suit that cost more than Marcus's car, Philip Graves, according to the nameplate in front of him. Quarterly profits are down 3%. Shareholder confidence is wavering. And frankly, your management style has become a liability. My management style built this company into a $4 billion enterprise. Elena's voice was cool, controlled. What exactly would you change, Philip? For starters, we could discuss the parade of employees who've quit under your leadership. HR received 14 resignation letters last month alone. Each one cited toxic work environment as the primary reason. Those employees were underperformers who couldn't meet basic standards. Or they were talented people who got tired of being treated like dirt. Graves's eyes flickered to Marcus, something calculating in the look. Though I see you found a new assistant. Interesting choice. Marcus felt the weight of that look, the implication behind it. The room temperature seemed to drop. Mr. Steele is highly qualified, Elena said sharply. His background in forensic accounting and operations management makes him an asset to this team. Graves smiled, thin and poisonous. I'm sure his qualifications were the primary factor in your decision, not his other attributes. The room went silent. Marcus's hands curled into fists at his sides, nails biting into his palms. He'd heard versions of this his entire life. The insinuation that any success he achieved was due to affirmative action or charity, never merit. The assumption that his presence anywhere was a political statement rather than a professional one. Elena stood slowly from her chair, movements deliberate, controlled fury radiating from every line of her body. Would you like to clarify that comment, Philip? I'm simply noting that optics matter. A young, unmarried female CEO hiring a male personal assistant, especially one with his particular background, raises questions. His particular background? Elena's voice had gone dangerously quiet. You mean his race? Say it plainly, Philip. If you're going to be a bigot, at least have the courage to be an honest one. Graves's face reddened. I said nothing about race. You didn't have to. We both know what you meant. Elena gathered her papers with sharp, precise movements. This meeting is over. The quarterly performance review will continue next week without you, Philip. Consider yourself removed from the review committee. You can't do that. I just did. Mr. Steele, please show Mr. Graves out. Marcus stepped forward, heart hammering. Graves stood, his face contorted with anger, barely held in check. This isn't over, Elena. The board will hear about this. The board can hear whatever they want. My company, my rules. Elena didn't look up from her papers. Goodbye, Philip. Marcus escorted Graves to the elevator in silence, the older man's fury palpable in the air between them. At the elevator doors, Graves turned, eyes cold. You think you've won something here. You think she's on your side. But women like Elena Hartwell don't have sides. They have uses. And when she's done using you, you'll find yourself back on the street where you belong. Marcus pressed the elevator button, keeping his expression neutral. Have a good day, Mr. Graves. You're making a mistake, boy. A big mistake. The doors opened. Graves stepped inside, and as they began to close, he delivered his final shot. She'll destroy you, just like she destroys everyone. The elevator descended, taking Graves and his hatred with it. Marcus stood there for a long moment, processing what had just happened. Then he walked back to Elena's office, knocked once, and entered. She was standing at the window, back to the door, shoulders rigid. I'm sorry you had to see that. I've seen worse. That doesn't make it acceptable. She finally turned. Her eyes were bright, but her voice was steady. Philip Graves has been trying to undermine me since I took over. He was one of the executives stealing from my father. I couldn't prove it enough to fire him, but I've been waiting for him to give me a reason. He just did. Yes, he did. Elena sat down at her desk, suddenly looking exhausted in a way that made her seem younger, more vulnerable. The board will fight me on this. Philip has allies. This could get ugly. Is there anything I can do? Elena looked at him, really looked for the first time without calculation or coldness. You could have said something back there when Philip made that comment about your particular background. You could have spoken up, defended yourself, made a scene, but you didn't. Why? Marcus considered the question. Because it wasn't my fight. It was yours. You stood up for me without hesitation, without worrying about the political consequences. That meant more than anything I could have said. Something shifted in Elena's expression, ice cracking to reveal warmth beneath. You're not what I expected, Marcus Steele. Neither are you, Elena. The professional distance between them, the employer-employee formality, it cracked just slightly in that moment. Not much, but enough to let light through. We should get back to work. Elena's voice was softer now. The Chang delegation arrives in 2 hours and I still need to review the proposal documents. I'll have everything ready. Marcus turned to leave. Marcus? He stopped. Thank you for staying. He nodded once and walked out the door. Behind him, Elena Hartwell sat alone in her enormous office, surrounded by glass and steel and the weight of an empire she'd never asked to inherit. And for the first time in years, she didn't feel quite so alone. That night, Marcus got home at 9, later than he'd promised Lily. Rosa met him at the door with understanding in her eyes. She's asleep, but she left something for you on the table. Another drawing, this one showing 3 figures instead of 2. A tall man, a small girl, and a woman with yellow hair all standing together under a bright sun, underneath in Lily's careful printing. Daddy's boss. Maybe she can be our friend. Marcus sat at the table for a long time staring at the picture, thinking about ice blue eyes softening, about a woman who'd defended him without being asked, about the impossible distance between their worlds and the strange, fragile bridge beginning to form. His phone buzzed. Elena, today was difficult. Thank you for making it less so. He typed back, that's what I'm here for. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Elena, good night, Marcus. He put down the phone and looked at his daughter's drawing again. 3 figures standing together. Hope rendered in crayon and belief. It was too early to hope, too soon to believe. But for the first time in months, hope was exactly what Marcus felt. 3 weeks passed faster than Marcus thought possible. He learned Elena's schedule like his own heartbeat. Coffee at 5:45, black, no sugar. First meeting at 7. Lunch she never ate. Calls with Hong Kong at 4, London at 11. Home by midnight if she was lucky, 2 if she wasn't. He learned her moods too. The tight jaw that meant a deal was falling apart. The drumming fingers that meant she was about to fire someone. The sudden silence that meant she was thinking about her father, whose photograph still watched over her desk like a ghost demanding excellence. And slowly, without either of them noticing, he learned her. The Mercedes was stuck in traffic on the way to a charity gala when Elena finally looked up from her laptop, eyes finding his in the rearview mirror. You're staring at me. Marcus didn't look away. Sorry, I was thinking. About what? About how you haven't eaten since breakfast. That was 14 hours ago. Her fingers paused on the keyboard. I'm not hungry. That's not what I asked. She finally looked at him through the mirror, really looked, ice blue eyes sharp with something between irritation and curiosity. Are you always this persistent? Only with people who work themselves to death and pretend it's normal. It is normal for me. That doesn't make it healthy. Elena closed her laptop with a sharp click. Mr. Steele, are you my driver or my mother? Neither. I'm the person who's going to hand you a protein bar and not take no for an answer. He reached into the center console and produced a granola bar, holding it up so she could see it in the mirror. He'd started keeping them there 2 weeks ago after watching her skip lunch 3 days in a row. Elena stared at him. You keep snacks in the car for me? I keep snacks in the car because you forget to eat like a human being. There's a difference. For a moment, she didn't move. Then slowly, she took the bar from his hand, fingers brushing his for just a second. This is very presumptuous of you. I know. I could fire you for this. You could, but then who would remind you to eat? Elena unwrapped the bar and took a bite, her eyes never leaving his in the mirror. You're a strange man, Marcus Steele. I've been called worse. She almost smiled. Almost. They drove the rest of the way in comfortable silence, and when they arrived at the venue, Elena had finished the entire bar. The charity gala was everything Marcus expected. Crystal chandeliers casting light like diamonds, designer gowns that cost more than his old annual salary, people who spent more on champagne in one night than he'd earned in a month at Morrison and Associates. He stood by the wall, watching Elena work the room. She was magnetic in a way that had nothing to do with her looks and everything to do with pure force of will. Men twice her age hung on her words. Women studied her with expressions that mixed envy and admiration. But Marcus saw what they didn't, the way her smile never reached her eyes, the way she kept checking her phone looking for an excuse to leave, the way her shoulders tensed every time someone mentioned her father, which happened approximately every 7 minutes. She was drowning in a room full of people and no one noticed. Impressive, isn't she? Marcus turned. A woman in her late 60s stood beside him, silver hair swept into an elegant updo, watching Elena with knowing eyes. Yes, ma'am, she is. I'm Catherine Sullivan, board chair. She extended her hand. And you're Marcus Steele, the assistant who told Elena she was wrong. Marcus shook her hand carefully. Word travels fast in this company. Word travels at the speed of light. Catherine sipped her champagne. Philip Graves has been telling anyone who will listen that Elena's lost her mind. Hiring you, promoting you, defending you in front of the board. He says it's proof she's unfit to lead. And what do you think? Catherine studied him for a long moment, eyes that had probably seen every corporate game ever played. I think Elena Hartwell has been alone for far too long. I think she inherited a broken company and fixed it through sheer force of will. And somewhere along the way, she forgot how to be human. And I think you might be the first person in years who sees her as something other than a CEO or a paycheck or a problem to be solved. I'm just her assistant, Ms. Sullivan. No, you're not. Catherine's eyes were sharp. I've watched Elena for 3 years. I've never seen her look at anyone the way she looks at you. She doesn't know it yet, but she's starting to trust you. And trust is something Elena Hartwell doesn't give easily. I'm not sure what you want me to do with that information. I want you to be careful. Elena has enemies on this board. Powerful enemies. If they think she's becoming vulnerable, they'll use anything they can to destroy her, including you. Before Marcus could respond, Elena appeared beside them, presence sharp enough to cut the conversation. Catherine, I see you've met my assistant. We were just discussing the weather. Catherine's voice was smooth as silk. Lovely gala, dear. Your father would be proud. Something flickered across Elena's face, pain, longing, gone in an instant. Thank you, Catherine. Marcus, I'm ready to leave. Yes, ma'am. Catherine caught Marcus's eye as they turned to go. Her look said everything her words hadn't. Be careful. She's more fragile than she appears. In the car, Elena was quiet. She stared out the window, watching the city lights blur past, fingers tracing patterns on the glass. What did Catherine really say to you? Marcus kept his eyes on the road. She said you have enemies on the board. That's not news. She said they'll use anything to destroy you, including me. Elena's jaw tightened. She's not wrong. Should I be worried? Probably. Elena turned to look at him. Philip Graves filed a formal complaint with HR yesterday. He's claiming I showed favoritism in your hiring and promotion. He wants an investigation. Marcus's stomach dropped. What does that mean? It means they'll review your qualifications, interview witnesses, examine every interaction we've ever had. If they find anything improper, anything at all, they'll use it to undermine my leadership. There's nothing improper about our relationship. You hired me because I was qualified. You promoted me because I proved my value. I know that. You know that. But Philip doesn't care about truth. He cares about perception. Elena's voice was tired. In his world, a woman who promotes an attractive man must be sleeping with him. There's no other explanation. Marcus gripped the steering wheel. That's disgusting. Welcome to corporate America, Marcus, where a woman can build $1 billion company and still be reduced to her supposed love life. They pulled up to her building. Marcus put the car in park but didn't move to open her door. Elena, she paused, hand on the door handle. I won't let them use me to hurt you. If leaving would protect you. Her voice cut through the car like a blade. Don't! Don't you dare offer to leave. That's exactly what they want. They want me isolated, vulnerable, alone. They want to prove that I can't trust anyone, that everyone will eventually abandon me. I wasn't going to abandon you. I was going to protect you by walking away. Elena shook her head. That's not protection, Marcus. That's surrender. And I don't surrender. She opened the door and stepped out, then leaned back in to look at him. Same time tomorrow. Don't be late. I'm never late. I know. Something softened in her eyes. That's why I trust you. She closed the door and walked into her building without looking back. Marcus sat in the parking garage for a long time, thinking about Catherine Sullivan's warning, about Philip Graves's investigation, about the impossible woman who was somehow becoming the center of his universe. His phone buzzed. Rose's name on the screen. Lily had a nightmare. She's asking for you. Marcus started the car and drove home, pushing thoughts of Elena aside. His daughter needed him. But even as he held Lily in the darkness, whispering that everything was okay, his mind kept drifting back to ice blue eyes and a voice that was learning, slowly, to soften. Sunday morning, Marcus took Lily to the Natural History Museum, a promised treat they'd been postponing for months. The special exhibit on butterflies was leaving in 2 weeks, and Lily had been talking about it since school started. They were standing in front of the butterfly metamorphosis display when Elena appeared beside them. Marcus nearly dropped Lily's hand in shock. I hope I'm not intruding. Elena wore jeans and a simple white blouse, no makeup, hair pulled back in a ponytail. She looked younger, softer, almost unrecognizable from the woman who commanded boardrooms. You mentioned yesterday that you were bringing Lily here. I thought I might join you, if that's all right. Lily's eyes went wide. You're Miss Elena, from Daddy's pictures. Elena's expression flickered with surprise. Your daddy has pictures of me? On his phone. He looks at them sometimes when he thinks I'm not watching. Marcus felt heat rush to his face. Lily, that's not. He says you're very smart and very sad, and he wishes you would smile more. Elena looked at Marcus, something unreadable in her eyes. Does he now? Lily grabbed Elena's hand, with the confidence of a 7-year-old who'd decided someone was safe. Come look at the butterflies, they're doing metamorphosis. She dragged Elena to the display, chattering about caterpillars and chrysalises with the enthusiasm of someone who'd memorized every fact in the exhibit brochure. Elena knelt down to Lily's level, listening with genuine attention as the little girl explained the transformation process. So the caterpillar goes into the chrysalis and basically dissolves completely. It breaks down into this soup of cells and rebuilds itself from nothing into something totally different. Isn't that amazing? Elena's voice was soft. It really is. My teacher says metamorphosis is like getting a second chance to be who you're meant to be. Lily looked up at Elena with those warm brown eyes. Like you, Miss Elena, you're changing from Ice Queen to regular person. Marcus stepped forward, ready to apologize, but Elena's laugh stopped him. It was genuine, surprised, the sound of someone catching themselves off guard. Ice Queen to regular person? That's quite a transformation. Daddy says you're trying. Lily squeezed Elena's hand. He says trying is the bravest thing people can do. Elena looked at Marcus over Lily's head, eyes bright with something that might have been tears. Your daddy is very wise. They spent 2 hours wandering through the museum, Lily bouncing between them like a small sun, pulling them from exhibit to exhibit with boundless energy. Marcus watched Elena transform, walls coming down piece by piece until she was laughing at Lily's jokes and asking questions about dinosaurs with genuine curiosity. In the gift shop, Lily found a stuffed butterfly and held it up to Elena. This one looks like you. See? It has blue on its wings, like your eyes. Elena took the butterfly, fingers gentle on the soft fabric. Would you like me to get it for you? Lily shook her head. I want you to have it, so you remember that metamorphosis is real and you're doing a really good job. Elena's composure cracked. She pulled Lily into a hug and Marcus saw her shoulders shake slightly. When they left the museum, Lily walked between them holding both their hands, swinging their arms and singing a song about butterflies that she'd learned in school. At the subway station, Elena turned to Marcus. Thank you for letting me intrude on your day. You didn't intrude. Lily had a wonderful time. So did I. Elena looked down at the stuffed butterfly in her free hand. More wonderful than I've had in a very long time. She knelt down and hugged Lily goodbye, and Marcus watched his daughter whisper something in Elena's ear that made the woman smile. When Elena was gone, Marcus asked what Lily had said. I told her she could come to our house for pancakes next Sunday if she wants. You make really good pancakes, Daddy, even if you burn the edges. Marcus laughed and swung his daughter up onto his shoulders. On the subway ride home, Lily fell asleep against his chest and Marcus pulled out his phone to find a text from Elena. Thank you for today. I didn't know I needed it until it happened. He typed back, same time next Sunday? I promise to try not to burn the pancakes. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Elena, I'd like that very much. The crisis hit at 6:47 on a Tuesday morning. Marcus arrived at the office to find chaos. The receptionist was on the phone, voice high with panic. I don't know where she is. She's not answering her cell. Her apartment doorman says she left at 4 a.m. and hasn't come back. No, I don't. What's going on? The receptionist hung up, face pale. It's Elena. She's missing. Missing? What do you mean missing? She was supposed to have a 6 a.m. call with the Tokyo office. She never showed. Her phone goes straight to voicemail. Her doorman says she left before dawn in last night's clothes and hasn't come back. The receptionist's hands were shaking. This isn't like her. She never misses calls. Never. Marcus's mind raced. Did anything happen last night after the gala? I don't know. The receptionist stopped. Wait, there was an email. It came in around 3 a.m. from the board secretary, something about her father's files being subpoenaed. Subpoenaed by who? I don't know the details. It was marked confidential, but Elena must have seen it because she logged into the system at 3:17 a.m. and accessed old records. Marcus grabbed his keys. I'm going to find her. How? You don't even know where to look. But Marcus did know. He'd been watching Elena for 3 weeks, learning her rhythms, her patterns, the way grief shaped her movements. He'd seen the way she touched her father's photograph when she thought no one was looking. He'd heard her mention once, in a moment of exhaustion, the place where she'd scattered his ashes. Riverside Park, the bench overlooking the water. He drove faster than he should have, weaving through early morning traffic, heart pounding. His phone buzzed with texts from the office, questions he ignored. All that mattered was finding her, making sure she was safe. The park was nearly empty, just a few joggers and dog walkers beginning their day. Marcus found her exactly where he expected. Elena sat on a wooden bench, still wearing her gown from some event she must have attended before seeing the email. Her makeup was smeared, mascara tracks down her cheeks. Her hair had come loose from whatever elaborate style it had been in. She looked smaller somehow, younger, broken in ways that made Marcus's chest ache. He approached slowly like she was a wounded animal that might bolt. Elena. She didn't look up. How did you find me? You mentioned this place once when you were tired. You said it was where you came to talk to your father. A bitter laugh escaped her. I should be more careful about what I say when I'm tired. Marcus sat down beside her, leaving space between them. Rachel's worried. The whole office is worried. Let them worry. Elena, what happened? She was silent for so long that Marcus thought she wouldn't answer. Then slowly she reached into her purse and pulled out a crumpled piece of paper. handing it to him without looking. Marcus unfolded it. Official letterhead, Department of Justice. The words swam in front of his eyes, but certain phrases jumped out. Investigation, money laundering, Charles Hartwell, financial records 15 years. This is a subpoena. The Justice Department is investigating your father. They think he was involved in money laundering. They want all his financial records from the last 15 years. Money laundering? Your father? He wasn't. Elena's voice cracked. My father was many things. Too trusting, too soft, too willing to see the best in people. But he wasn't a criminal. He would never... She stopped, pressing a hand to her mouth. Marcus waited, giving her space to find the words. The executives who stole from him, they didn't just steal money. They used the company to clean their own dirty profits. They made my father an unwitting accomplice to their crimes, and now, 3 years after his death, the Justice Department thinks he was the mastermind. Can you prove he wasn't? I don't know. The records are a mess. The men who did this covered their tracks well. And now they're on my board, waiting for me to fail, waiting for this investigation to destroy everything I've built. Philip Graves. It wasn't a question. Elena nodded. He was the CFO when my father was alive. He's the one who set up the offshore accounts, made the transfers, buried the evidence. But I can never prove it. Every document that might have implicated him disappeared years ago. So what do we do? Elena finally looked at him. Her eyes were red, her face pale, but underneath the exhaustion there was something else, determination. We? There is no we, Marcus. This is my fight, my father's legacy, my company. With respect, you hired me to help you. That's what I'm going to do. This isn't about driving me to meetings or managing my schedule. This is federal investigation. This is prison time. This is exactly why you need someone in your corner. Marcus's voice was firm. Elena, you've been fighting alone for 3 years. You've been carrying the weight of this company, your father's memory, everyone's expectations. When was the last time you let someone help you? She stared at him, tears threatening to spill over. I don't know how. Then learn. Start with me. The sun was rising over the river, painting the water gold and pink. Birds called from the trees. The city was waking up around them, but in this moment it was just the two of them on a bench. 2 people from different worlds deciding whether to trust each other with the truth. You should go home. Zara will be wondering where you are. Lily is with Rosa. She's fine. Marcus, I'm not leaving you alone on a park bench in a gala gown. That's not how this works. Despite everything, Elena felt the corner of her mouth twitch. How does it work then? First, we get you home. You shower, change, eat something. Then we go to the office together and figure out how to fight this one step at a time. You make it sound simple. It's not simple, but it's doable. Everything is doable if you break it down into steps. Elena looked at him, really looked, for the first time without walls, without calculation, without the armor she wore every day. Why are you doing this? You could walk away, find another job. You don't need this chaos in your life. Marcus thought about Lily's drawing, about 3 figures standing together under the sun, about the woman who'd defended him without hesitation, who'd given him a second chance when no one else would, about ice-blue eyes learning to soften, about strength that was finally admitting it needed help. Because you gave me a chance when no one else would. Because you stood up for me in that boardroom when Graves tried to tear me down. And because you don't have to carry everything alone, that's not strength. That's just loneliness pretending to be courage. Elena's breath caught. No one had ever said anything like that to her. Not since her father died. Marcus, you don't have to say anything. Just let me help. That's all I'm asking. She nodded slowly. Then she did something that surprised them both. She reached across the space between them and took his hand, squeezing it just for a moment, just long enough for both of them to feel it. Okay, They walked back to the car together, the morning light warming their faces. Elena's gown was ruined, her reputation was under attack, and her father's legacy was being dragged through the mud. But for the first time in 3 years, she didn't feel alone. The drive back to Elena's apartment was quiet, but it was a different kind of quiet than before. Not the cold silence of employer and employee, but something warmer, more fragile. The kind of silence that happens when two people have just crossed a line they can't uncross. Marcus pulled up to her building and Elena paused with her hand on the door handle. "Thank you for finding me, for staying. Always." She looked at him and something flickered in her eyes. "I'm not good at this, at letting people in. I've been alone so long that I've forgotten how to be anything else." "You don't have to be good at it. You just have to try." Elena nodded, then reached across the center console and squeezed his hand again. Longer this time. Her fingers were cold, but her grip was strong. Then she was gone, disappearing into her building without looking back. Marcus sat in the car, staring at his hand where she'd touched it. His phone buzzed. Rose's name. "Lily wants to know when you're coming home. I told her you're helping Miss Elena with something important." He smiled despite everything and typed back, "Soon, very soon." 3 hours later, Elena walked into Hartwell Industries like nothing had happened. Her hair was perfect, her makeup flawless, her suit pressed. Her heels clicked against the marble floor with the confidence of a woman who had never doubted herself for a moment. Only Marcus knew the truth. He walked 3 steps behind her, close enough to catch her if she stumbled, far enough to maintain the illusion of professionalism. They'd agreed on the drive over that no one could know about this morning. No one could see weakness, but the vultures were already circling. Philip Graves stood in the elevator lobby, surrounded by 3 other board members. His smile was the smile of a man who smelled blood. "Elena, we missed you at the Tokyo call this morning. I had a personal matter to attend to. Rachel rescheduled." "A personal matter?" Graves's eyes flickered to Marcus. "How convenient. Is there something you need, Philip? I have a full schedule." "Actually, yes. The board has called an emergency meeting regarding the subpoena." Elena's face didn't change. "I'm aware of the subpoena." "Are you? Then perhaps you can explain to us why the Justice Department believes your father was laundering money through our pension fund." The lobby went silent. Employees stopped walking. Phones stopped ringing. Every eye turned to Elena. Marcus watched her spine stiffen, watched her hands curl into fists at her sides. "My father was the most honest man I've ever known. Whatever the Justice Department believes, they're wrong, and I intend to prove it." "How? By hiding evidence? By promoting employees who might help you cover your tracks?" Graves's voice dripped with false concern. "Elena, the board is worried. Your recent decisions have been questionable. First the Steele situation, now this. Perhaps it's time to consider stepping back for the good of the company." Marcus felt heat rise in his chest. His hands clenched. Every instinct screamed at him to step forward, to defend her, to put Philip Graves in his place. But Elena didn't need defending. She smiled. It was not a nice smile. "Philip, I have documents showing that during your tenure as CFO, you authorized 17 wire transfers to offshore accounts in the Cayman Islands. I have emails discussing alternative revenue streams with people who are currently serving federal prison sentences for fraud, and I have testimony from 3 former employees willing to swear under oath that you personally instructed them to falsify expense reports." Graves's face went white. "You're bluffing." "Am I?" Elena stepped closer to him, close enough that he could see the steel in her eyes. "Try me, Philip. Push for that vote of no confidence. Call that emergency meeting and watch what happens when I share what I know with the Justice Department." The silence was deafening. Graves's mouth opened, closed, opened again. "This isn't over." "No, it isn't." Elena turned on her heel and walked toward the elevator. "Marcus, we have work to do." Marcus followed, feeling Graves's hate-filled gaze burning into his back. In the elevator, Elena's composure cracked. Her hands were shaking. Her breath came in short, sharp gasps. "That was a bluff. I don't have any of those documents." "He doesn't know that. He'll find out. He'll call my bluff. And when he does, then we find the documents before he does." Elena looked at him, hope and fear warring in her eyes. "You really believe that?" "I believe you're the smartest person I've ever met. I believe your father didn't raise a fool, and I believe that Philip Graves is too arrogant to have covered his tracks as well as he thinks he did." The elevator doors opened. Elena straightened her shoulders, raised her chin, and stepped out into the hallway. But before she walked away, she turned back. "Marcus?" "Yes?" "Thank you for believing in me. Always." She nodded once and disappeared into her office. Marcus stood in the hallway, knowing that the real battle was just beginning. Somewhere in this building there was evidence that could save Elena's father's legacy and destroy Philip Graves forever. And Marcus Steele was going to find it, no matter what it cost him. The dive bar on the east side was exactly the kind of place a Morrison and Associates accountant would drink himself into oblivion. Marcus found Thomas Chen 3 whiskeys deep at 4 in the afternoon, tie loosened, eyes red. "Thomas." The man looked up, recognition dawning slowly. "Marcus Steele, heard you landed on your feet, private sector. How's that working out?" Marcus slid into the booth across from him. "I need information about Philip Graves." Thomas laughed, bitter and sharp. "Join the club. Half the forensic accountants in this city would love to nail that bastard." "You worked with him at Hartwell Industries, didn't you? Before Charles Hartwell died?" "I was there for the last year. Saw enough to make me quit accounting altogether." Thomas drained his whiskey. "Graves had us shred documents, mountains of them. Week after Mr. Hartwell died, we worked overnight shifts destroying files. He said it was routine purge, standard procedure. But it wasn't. I saw account numbers before they went through the shredder. Cayman Islands, millions moving through shell corporations. I tried to tell someone, but Graves had connections. Next thing I know, I'm being investigated for drinking on the job." Thomas gestured to his glass, which ironically I wasn't doing then, started after. Marcus pulled out a notepad. "Do you remember any of the account numbers?" "Some. Not enough to prove anything." Thomas leaned forward. "But I remember the pattern. Every transfer happened within 24 hours of an email from Graves, like clockwork. Email comes in, money moves out. If you could find those emails, where would they be? Company server probably, but Graves locked down access to anything from that period. Claimed it was to protect Charles Hartwell's privacy during the investigation." Marcus's mind raced, pieces clicking together. "What about physical files, paper trails?" Thomas's eyes focused for the first time since Marcus sat down. "There was a storage room, sublevel B3. Graves personally supervised what went there. No one else had access codes. Room number? 47. But you'll never get in. Graves sealed it 3 months after Mr. Hartwell died. I heard him tell his assistant it was staying locked until the investigation went cold." Marcus stood, already pulling out his phone. "Thomas, thank you. Hey, Steele, if you're going after Graves, be careful. He's got friends in places you don't want to make enemies." "So does Elena." The archives room was cold, temperature controlled to preserve documents that no one ever looked at anymore. Marcus worked by the light of his phone, cross-referencing email timestamps with wire transfer records, building a timeline that got clearer with every piece he found. Thomas was right. The pattern was unmistakable. Email from Graves, wire transfer within 24 hours. Sometimes 12. Once, just 6. He was so focused on the files that he didn't hear the footsteps until they were right outside the door. "Security's doing rounds early tonight." Marcus killed his phone light and pressed himself against the shelving, heart hammering. The footsteps passed. The door didn't open. He waited 5 minutes before turning the light back on. By 3 in the morning, he had enough to make his case. 17 separate instances where the pattern held, enough to create reasonable suspicion. Not enough to convict, but enough to investigate further. He photographed everything with his phone, careful to capture dates and account numbers. Then he put the files back exactly where he'd found them and left the archives room like a ghost. Storage room 47 was exactly where Thomas said it would be, down a corridor that looked like it hadn't seen traffic in years. The door was steel, the lock electronic, a keypad blinking green in the darkness. Marcus had tried every combination he could think of. Charles Hartwell's birthday, the company's founding date, Elena's birthday, the date Charles died. Nothing worked. He was about to give up when his phone rang. Elena's name on the screen. "Where are you? It's almost midnight." Marcus looked at the locked door. "Sublevel B3, storage room 47. I found where Graves hid the evidence, but I can't get in." Silence on the other end. Then, "What have you tried?" "Every date I could think of related to your father or the company." "Try the date my mother died. January 17th, 1998. Marcus punched in the numbers. 01171998. The lock beeped. The light turned red, then green. The door clicked open. "Marcus!" His voice came out rough. "How did you know?" "My father never got over losing her. He kept that date on everything, passwords, security codes, everything." Elena's voice was thick. "I should have thought of it sooner." "Stay on the line with me. I'm coming down there." "Elena, it's midnight. I'm already in the parking garage. Don't move. Don't touch anything else. I'm coming." 23 minutes later, Elena burst through the door in sweatpants and a university t-shirt, hair pulled back in a messy ponytail, no makeup. Marcus had never seen her look more beautiful. "Show me." The room was full of boxes, filing cabinets, folders stacked floor to ceiling. But Marcus had already found what they needed in the first cabinet he'd opened, like Graves had been so confident no one would ever get in that he didn't bother to hide it. He handed Elena the first memo. She read it once, twice, 3 times, then she started to cry. "He did this. Graves destroyed my father. He used him, framed him, and let him die thinking he failed everyone. Elena, my father spent his last 6 months apologizing to me. Apologizing for the mess he was leaving behind, for the company that was falling apart, for not being stronger." Her voice broke. "He thought it was his fault. He died thinking he was a failure." Marcus stepped forward and did something he'd never done before. He pulled her into his arms. Elena stiffened for a moment. Then she collapsed against him, sobbing into his chest, years of grief and rage pouring out in the dusty basement of the company her father had built. He held her. He didn't speak. He just held her. When the tears finally stopped, Elena pulled back, wiping her face with the back of her hand. "I'm sorry. That was unprofessional. That was human." She looked at him, really looked, and something shifted in her eyes. "Marcus, I don't know how to thank you for this." "Don't thank me. Help me carry these boxes upstairs. We have work to do." They spent the rest of the night in Elena's office, sorting through documents, building a case against Philip Graves that would destroy him completely. By 6 in the morning, they had enough evidence to send him to prison for 20 years. Marcus rubbed his exhausted eyes. "We should call the Justice Department, give them everything." "Not yet." "What do you mean, not yet? This clears your father's name. This proves—" "I know what it proves." Elena's voice was cold, focused. "But if we give this to the feds now, Graves will lawyer up and drag this out for years. I want him to confess. I want him to admit what he did in front of the entire board." "How are you going to make him do that?" Elena smiled. It was the smile of a predator about to strike. "I'm going to give him exactly what he wants." The 17 days that followed were the happiest Marcus had experienced since Sarah died. Breakfast with Elena and Lily every morning. The 3 of them crowded around his small kitchen table. Elena learning to flip pancakes without burning them while Lily offered commentary on everyone's technique. Dinners together every evening, sometimes at Elena's apartment, sometimes at his, once memorably at a pizza place where Lily insisted Elena needed to understand the concept of extra cheese. Weekends at the park, at the museum, at the zoo where Lily dragged them to see the butterflies 3 times because Miss Elena needs to learn about metamorphosis. Elena was learning, not just about butterflies, but about everything she'd missed in her years of isolation. How to laugh without checking if anyone was watching. How to eat a meal without her phone in her hand. How to fall asleep on the couch during a movie and wake up with a 7-year-old's head on her shoulder. She was learning how to be human again. Lily drew a new picture, this one showing 3 figures holding hands under the sun, flowers blooming around their feet. At the bottom, in her careful printing, "My family together forever." And then the article dropped. Marcus's phone exploded at 6:47 on a Tuesday morning. Text after text, call after call. He ignored them all, focused on flipping pancakes while Lily sat at the table and Elena reviewed quarterly reports at the kitchen counter. A scene so domestic it made his chest ache. Then Elena's phone rang. She glanced at the screen. Her face went white. "I need to take this." She walked toward the bedroom, already talking. "Catherine, what's happening?" Marcus watched her disappear down the hallway, cold dread settling in his stomach. "Daddy, the pancakes are burning." He turned back to the stove, but his hands were shaking. Elena emerged 10 minutes later. Her face was a mask, the Ice Queen mask that Marcus hadn't seen in weeks. "Lily, sweetheart, why don't you go watch cartoons in the living room? Daddy and I need to talk about grown-up stuff." "Is something wrong?" "No, baby, everything's fine. Go watch cartoons." Lily looked between them, her 7-year-old intuition sensing the tension, but she nodded and padded off to the living room, casting one worried glance over her shoulder. The moment she was gone, Elena handed Marcus her phone. "Read it." The headline hit him like a punch to the gut. Billionaire's scandalous secret, Elena Hartwell's affair with her black driver raises questions about corporate judgment. Marcus's blood ran cold as he scrolled through the article. It was brutal, vicious, every word designed to destroy. They called Elena desperate and lonely. They called Marcus an opportunist who seduced his way into a fortune. They dug up his financial troubles, his eviction notices, his unemployment. They implied that he'd targeted Elena deliberately, that their relationship was nothing more than a calculated scheme to escape poverty. And then there were the quotes. Anonymous sources from inside Hartwell Industries claiming that Marcus was unqualified for his position, that Elena had promoted him despite concerns from HR, that their relationship was an open secret that made everyone uncomfortable. The final paragraph was the worst. Perhaps most troubling is the impact on Hartwell's 7-year-old daughter figure, Lily Steele. Sources close to the family report that the child has been used as a prop to legitimize the relationship, with Hartwell allegedly playing mother to secure her hold on Marcus Steele. Child welfare experts warn that such arrangements can be deeply damaging to vulnerable children caught in adult power dynamics. Marcus's hands were shaking so hard he nearly dropped the phone. "They brought Lily into this. They wrote about my daughter. Marcus, they called her a prop. They said I was using her." His voice cracked. "She's 7 years old. She's 7 years old and they're writing about her in a tabloid like she's some kind of..." He couldn't finish. Elena took the phone from his hands and set it on the counter. "Look at me." Marcus looked. Her eyes were filled with pain, but beneath the pain was steel. "We knew this was coming. We knew people would talk. We knew there would be articles and gossip and people who didn't understand. I didn't know they would go after my daughter. Neither did I. And I am so, so sorry. It's not your fault, isn't it?" Elena's voice was bitter. "I'm the public figure. I'm the one with enemies. If you were with anyone else, no one would care about your personal life. But because you're with me..." "Don't," Marcus interrupted. Don't you dare blame yourself for other people being cruel. Then who do I blame? Blame the people who wrote the article. Blame the anonymous sources who fed them lies. Blame Philip Graves because I guarantee you he's behind this somehow. Elena's jaw tightened. Graves is in federal custody awaiting trial. That doesn't mean he can't make phone calls. That doesn't mean he doesn't have allies still inside the company. Marcus started pacing. Think about it. Who benefits from destroying your reputation right now? Who wants you distracted and humiliated while federal prosecutors are building a case? His lawyers could argue that I'm an unreliable witness, that I have personal vendettas, that my judgment is compromised by an inappropriate relationship. Elena's eyes widened. Oh God, this isn't about destroying me. It's about destroying the case against him. We need to find out who talked to that reporter. That could take weeks. And in the meantime, that article is spreading everywhere. By tomorrow, everyone in the country will have seen it. Then we fight back. We tell our side of the story. How? Every word we say will be twisted. Every interview will be edited to make us look worse. The media doesn't want the truth. They want drama. Marcus stopped pacing. Then we give them something bigger than drama. What do you mean? You said Graves has allies inside the company. People who've been feeding information to the press, undermining you from the inside. What if we found them? What if we exposed them the same way we exposed Graves? Elena shook her head. That would take months of investigation. We don't have months. The board is meeting in 3 days to discuss concerns about company image. If I can't convince them that this relationship isn't affecting my judgment, then convince them. How? Marcus took her hands in his. By showing them what I see. A woman who works harder than anyone I've ever known. A leader who chose to protect her employees over easy profits. A CEO who took down a corrupt executive and cleared her father's name. That's the Elena Hartwell the board should be talking about, not some tabloid fantasy. You make it sound so simple. It's not simple, but it's true, and sometimes the truth is enough. Elena looked at him for a long moment. You really believe that? I have to, because if the truth isn't enough, then nothing is. And I refuse to live in a world where nothing is enough. Before Elena could respond, a small voice came from the doorway. Daddy, why is Miss Elena crying? They both turned. Lily stood in the hallway, her eyes wide with worry. Marcus knelt down and opened his arms. Lily ran to him, burying her face in his shoulder. It's okay, sweetheart. Miss Elena is just a little sad about some mean things people said. What kind of mean things? Elena knelt beside them. Some people wrote a story about us, Lily. About me and your daddy, and they said some things that weren't true. Lily pulled back, her small face fierce with 7-year-old outrage. Like lies? Yes, like lies. That's not fair. Lying is wrong. My teacher says lying hurts people. Your teacher is right. Then we should tell everyone the truth. We should tell them that you're nice and Daddy is nice and we're happy together. Elena's eyes glistened. Out of the mouths of babes. Marcus hugged his daughter tighter. You know what, sweetheart? I think you're exactly right. The board meeting was scheduled for Friday at 10. Marcus spent the next 3 days doing something he'd never done before. He dug into his own past. He gathered every reference letter from his 12 years at Morrison and Associates. He compiled every performance review, every commendation, every record of every case he'd successfully closed. He built a portfolio of evidence proving that he wasn't an opportunist or a gold digger or any of the other things the article had called him. He was a man who had worked hard his entire life. A man who had lost his wife and raised his daughter alone. A man who had taken a job no one wanted because he had no other choice. And he was a man who had fallen in love with a woman who just happened to be a billionaire. Elena, meanwhile, worked on a different kind of evidence. She traced the anonymous quotes back to their sources. She cross-referenced schedules and access logs and email records until she had a list of names. 3 employees, all hired by Philip Graves, all still feeding information to his legal team. Thursday night, they sat together on Elena's couch, exhausted, surrounded by evidence and documents and the weight of what they were about to do. I could fire them. I have enough evidence to terminate all three for breach of confidentiality. But firing them now looks like retaliation. It makes me look paranoid, vindictive, exactly what the article said I was. So what do we do? Elena rubbed her temples. I don't know. For the first time in my life, I genuinely don't know. Marcus sat down beside her. Tell me about your father. Not what Graves did to him. About him. Who was he? What was he like? Elena was quiet for a long moment. He was kind. Too kind, everyone always said. He believed in second chances. He believed people were fundamentally good. He hired ex-convicts and gave them fresh starts. He donated half his profits to charity. He used to say that money was just a tool, and tools were meant to be used for building, not hoarding. He sounds like a good man. He was the best man I ever knew. Elena's voice caught, and the world destroyed him for it. His kindness made him vulnerable. His trust made him a target. Everyone he believed in either betrayed him or used him. And in the end, he died thinking he was a failure. Is that why you became the Ice Queen? Elena flinched at the term. I became what I had to become to survive. Cold, calculating, untrusting. I told myself it was strength. I told myself my father's weakness had killed him and I would never be weak like that. But I was wrong. Elena looked at him, her eyes raw with truth. My father wasn't weak. He was brave. It takes courage to trust people. It takes strength to be kind in a world that punishes kindness. I thought I was protecting myself by closing off, but all I was doing was becoming exactly what I hated. Marcus squeezed her hand. So show them that tomorrow. Show them the woman your father raised, the woman who believes in second chances and fundamental goodness and using tools to build instead of hoard. Show them that being kind isn't the same as being weak. Show them that loving someone doesn't compromise your judgment, it clarifies it. Elena stared at him. You want me to go into that boardroom and be vulnerable? Show them the parts of myself I've spent years hiding? I want you to go into that boardroom and be yourself, the real you, the one I fell in love with. The words hung in the air between them. What did you just say? Marcus realized what he'd said, and he didn't take it back. I said I fell in love with you. Somewhere in the past few weeks, I stopped seeing you as my boss and started seeing you as the woman I want to spend the rest of my life getting to know. Elena couldn't speak, couldn't breathe. You can't mean that. I've never meant anything more. Marcus, I'm a disaster. I work too much. I don't know how to have relationships. I'll probably say something terrible and hurt you without meaning to. I know. You know? Elena, I've seen you at your worst. I've seen you cry in a park at dawn. I've seen you shake with fear and doubt, and I'm still here. That should tell you something. She stood slowly, her hand still in his. What does it tell me? That you don't have to be perfect. You don't have to be the Ice Queen or the hero or the CEO. You can just be Elena. And that's enough. That's more than enough. A tear slipped down her cheek. I don't know how to do this. Neither do I. But maybe we can figure it out together. She looked at him for a long moment. Then she kissed him. It wasn't planned. It wasn't careful. It was desperate and hungry and full of everything they'd both been holding back for weeks. When they finally pulled apart, both of them were breathing hard. This is insane. Completely. The board will have opinions. Let them. The press will have a field day. I don't care. Elena laughed, a real laugh, full and warm and surprised. Marcus Steele, you are the most stubborn man I've ever met. I learned from the best. She kissed him again, softer this time. What happens now? Now we go home. You get some sleep. Tomorrow we figure out how to tell the board that I'm not going anywhere. And tomorrow night we figure out how to tell Lily that her daddy's boss might be something more. Elena pulled back. Lily. Oh God, Marcus, I didn't even think about how this affects her. If she doesn't like me, if she's not comfortable, I can't come between you and your daughter. I won't do that. Marcus smiled. Elena, Lily's been asking when you're going to be her other mommy for 2 weeks. Elena blinked. What? She drew a picture of the three of us. You, me, and her. She titled it, My Family. She did? She sees something in you that you don't see in yourself, just like I do. Elena's eyes filled with fresh tears. I don't deserve this, any of this. You deserve everything, Elena, and I'm going to spend the rest of my life proving it to you. They left the office hand in hand, stepping into a future that neither of them had planned but both of them needed. The tabloids could say whatever they wanted. The world could judge however it pleased. Marcus Steele and Elena Hartwell had found each other against impossible odds, and nothing was going to tear them apart.